June 4, 1942. The Pacific Ocean, 300 miles northwest of Midway Atoll, a Japanese fleet, the most powerful naval armada ever assembled, was cutting through the dark water toward a single target. They had already taken Pearl Harbor. They had already taken the Philippines. They had swallowed half the Pacific in 6 months, and on this morning they were about to finish the job. America had 4 aircraft carriers left in the entire Pacific. 4. The Japanese had 10. What happened in the next 18 hours would either save the United States or hand Japan total dominance of the Pacific Ocean forever. But here's the part that never makes it into the history books. America almost threw it all away. Not because of the enemy, because of one decision, one misread message, one moment of catastrophic confusion at the worst possible time. This is the story of the day America came within minutes of losing World War II, and the handful of men whose desperate choices pulled us back from the edge. I want to be upfront with you about something. We've all heard of the Battle of Midway. It gets called America's greatest naval victory. It gets framed as this clean, triumphant turning point. But nobody talks about how close it came to being the opposite. And I think that story, the real story, is more important. Because it's not a story about invincibility. It's a story about human beings making impossible decisions with incomplete information, under fire, with everything on the line. If you're new here, this channel is about the history they didn't teach you, the human cost behind the headlines. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming now. Let's go back to the spring of 1942. Here's something most Americans don't know. In the 6 months following Pearl Harbor, Japan did not lose a single major naval engagement. Not one. They were undefeated, expanding, and completely confident they were about to win this war before America could even properly enter it. The Japanese plan was surgical. Take Midway Atoll, a tiny island 1,300 miles from Honolulu, and use it as a staging base to strike Hawaii again. Knock out what was left of the American fleet, force a peace treaty, and lock the United States out of the Pacific permanently. It was a brilliant plan, and on paper it should have worked. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto was not a man who gambled recklessly. He was methodical, educated partly in America. He actually warned Japan's War Council before Pearl Harbor that he could give them 6 months of victories, and after that he could promise nothing. He knew America's industrial capacity. He knew that time was Japan's enemy, so Midway had to work, and he designed the operation with overwhelming force. 4 of Japan's 6 fleet carriers, hundreds of planes, tens of thousands of men, against whatever broken pieces of the American Pacific Fleet were left. On the American side, the picture was grim. Admiral Chester Nimitz was working out of a basement office at Pearl Harbor that sailors called the dungeon. He had almost nothing. The carrier Lexington was gone, sunk a month earlier at the Battle of the Coral Sea. The Yorktown had taken a bomb hit so severe that Japanese intelligence reported her sunk. Nimitz called his engineers and asked how long it would take to repair her. They said 90 days, Nimitz said. You have 72 hours, and they did it. Thousands of workers around the clock, welding, patching, cutting. They got the Yorktown seaworthy in 3 days. Not perfect, but floating. And armed. Here's the detail that changes everything. The reason Nimitz knew Yamamoto was coming at all. A Navy codebreaker named Joseph Rochefort, working in a basement in Hawaii, had partially cracked Japan's naval code. He identified AF as the target in Japanese communications. His superiors in Washington disagreed. They thought AF meant the Aleutian Islands, Alaska. Rochefort needed to prove them wrong. So he came up with a trick. He had Midway send a fake radio message, in the clear, reporting that their water distillation plant had broken down. 2 days later, Japanese communications lit up with word that AF was running low on fresh water. Rochefort had proven it. Midway was the target, but knowing where the enemy is coming isn't the same as being ready for them. The American commanders had 3 carriers, Enterprise, Hornet, and the barely patched Yorktown. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and they knew it. And yet they sailed anyway. What happened next in the space of about 6 minutes would change the course of history. But first it would nearly end at dawn. 4:30 a.m. Japanese carriers launch their first wave of planes toward Midway. 108 aircraft screaming across the sky. American radar picks them up. Midway scrambles every plane. It has outdated, outmatched fighters that get torn apart by Japanese Zeros. The Japanese bomb Midway hard. Damage is severe, but the Japanese strike commander radios back to the fleet. We need a second strike. The island isn't neutralized yet. This is the first crack in the plan. Admiral Chuichi Nagumo, commanding the Japanese carriers, faces a decision. His planes below deck are armed with torpedoes designed to attack ships. If he's launching a second land strike, he needs